Hello, bonjour, Calgary. Did you know that at least 238,000 people speak Français in Alberta and that 90,000 live right here in Calgary? Oui, oui, c'est vrai. It's true. And now, thanks to Shaw Community Access Programming, we get to reach out to everyone to let you know all about our special people, places, events, and activities happening in this fair city in both English and en français. That's right, mes amis. We begin the first part of our program in English and then we repeat it en français. So stay with us. Welcome to today's program. My name is Anne Boiteau and I'm your host today. We're chatting with Mark Skarzynski of the Westmount Charter School today. And Mark is the guidance counselor and student services coordinator for Westmount. And Mark, I think we'll start a little bit, if you don't mind, talking about Westmount and what kind of special charter school Westmount is. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes, so Westmount is a charter school that serves gifted students, and it serves K to 12, and we have about 1,200 students. And our mandate is to provide the best education possible for gifted students. Gifted students are often overlooked, and yet they really deserve to have an education that's challenging and meaningful and in some cases differentiated for their needs, and so that's what we strive to do. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit what a gifted student means.
Well, the definition of gifted over the past 50 years has evolved quite a bit. It used to be raw IQ, but now, as we have understood intelligence in a wider spectrum, gifted means essentially that in one or two or more areas, a student is really precocious, really ahead of their peers, and often highly passionate about certain subjects and doing things that are very creative and well advanced of their years. And also, sometimes gifted students have things that are asynchronous. So, they develop unequally at certain times. So maybe in some social areas, they might be a little bit later in their development, or in other subjects, they're a bit slower to develop. So it's not all an equal progression. So sometimes they have some challenges that one doesn't see on the surface.
So would it be as challenging to teach gifted students as it is teaching a regular school?
I think, to be really honest to all teachers, I think to be fully present to a full classroom of students is a challenging and very rewarding job. And it is challenging in some areas, but on the other hand, I think the real challenge is reaching out to all the students in ways that they can learn, and that's something that our teachers at Westmount do really well. Yeah.
And you're here today because we're going to be talking a little bit about the French as a second language in Westmount, and the exchange that the student exchange that Westmount has organized this year with Saint-Tite in Quebec, close to Quebec City.
Yeah, so we have a very strong French and Spanish program at Westmount. And the French teacher in particular, Anne-Claire Chevalier, has worked very hard this year and organized with Annie Toussaint in Quebec an exchange which has already happened and was very satisfying for about 40 students, about 20 on either side.
Was this the first time
No,
that you were?
no, it's something we've done There's been a bit of a hiatus, but it's something that was done fairly regularly over the years. These types of trips really add a lot of color and meaning and just adventure and fun to a curriculum. One of the students said to me just today that, you know, you can spend years in a classroom learning a language, but until you actually get off the bus, as we did in Saint-Tite, and you see the language surrounding you, you hear it in the family, you see it in the grocery store, in the dépanneur, then you really start to get it. And all of our students, to some degree, had the pleasant surprise that the French that they learned was very applicable, and that they could make themselves understood, and they had a lot of fun with it. So it brought a lot of meaning to, you know, the curriculum and to them. Yeah.
And did you pick Saint-Tite because Saint-Tite is sort of the capital of country and western for the province of Quebec? Was that the theme? Why you picked?
It was definitely, we were paired with Saint-Tite because, yes, Saint-Tite has an amazing rodeo show in a very small rural environment. And definitely the organizers of Civic Canada realized that this was a commonality. But it is a bit random. When, as a teacher, I think Claire threw in her bid, you don't know where you're going at that point. So it's a bit of an adventure.
So you bid with, is it the program of the federal government?
Yes.
Civic?
Yes.
And you put in a bid, and did you have a choice, or did you put a first, second, third choice of
I think at
places?
a pinch you can say that you have to go, you can go elsewhere, but they prefer that, you know, the first pairing is what happens, and that's what we did. And it was very interesting to see, you know, a rodeo culture standing in the, you know, small Coliseum-like rodeo in Saint-Tite. I think it housed maybe 1,500 people. The Cowboys love it. And to, you know, see this culture there in Quebec City, or sorry, in Saint-Tite, in the province of Quebec. And then to be standing, we also took them to the Stampede Corral here, and to be standing in our vast, you know, center, and to kind of compare the two. It was very interesting.
Yes, Saint-Tite is also a country western music festival, as well as the rodeo. So what else did you do? It was a week-long trip, was it? With
it was about a week,
your
yeah,
students?
and it was just the week before Christmas break in December. Yeah.
Okay, and did you stay in Saint-Tite, or did you get to discover a little more of...
Yeah, so students stay in general with their host families at either end. And we traveled around quite a bit. So we went to Montreal and had a great tour of Montreal and the park overlooking Montreal. We went to Trois-Rivières and had a very interesting visit to a hydroelectric station. Quebec and the Citadel. Free time in various places. We spent a fair amount of time in the community of Saint-Tite. We went to a 19th century British prison in Trois-Rivières, and traveled around a fair bit, really. So the students got a good sense of both, you know, the two major cities in Quebec and also the rural feel. So yeah.
And what was their biggest learning discovery, or was it different for each student? Or?
Well, I think that from what I've gathered and heard, they really enjoyed the students of Quebec and of Saint-Tite, and they made some really good friends. And I think they found more commonalities than differences. And at the same time, I think they really saw, you know, 1,000 different things every day. Whether it's the pace in the rural town, or, you know, the food, the specific cultures and traditions, the music they liked, you know, the way they played.
Were they surprised by anything?
I think they were all surprised that generally it was a really good fit. The students seemed to find, you know, the host family they needed. It was really quite amazing. There was a lot of background work done by Annie and Anne-Claire to make the very best match, but it really worked really well. And so I think everybody was pleasantly surprised, because when we arrived after 10 plus hours of traveling, late at night, there had just been a storm in St-Tite, and there was no time to, you know, the school there was locked. It was 9:30 at night, and the students had to jump out of the bus and get into the host family vehicles, and off they went. So it was a bit of a trial by fire, and they really enjoyed, I think, the contact. You know, they had some really good times. Yeah.
And what about the language exchange? Did they, were they able to really practice the French that they had learned, or did they see themselves going back to English?
I think our teacher has done an amazing job with them, and you know, it's very difficult to practice in a classroom, and this is just was a great chance for them to really spread their wings. And I think they found that the structures that they had learned and mastered to varying degrees really served them well. So yeah, the language worked well, and I think a lot of teenagers in Canada can read a lot of what's going on just with one quick glance too. They know if they're bored or if they're interested, or you know. So there was a lot of commonalities and a lot of enjoyment and jokes and laughing. And you know, when they left after our last evening here in Calgary, when they came back, there were a lot of tears. There was you know, they were singing, and you know, it was quite impressive.
So do you think that this experience will sort of push a little bit more the students to continue to learn more French?
Well, we have a lot of trips at Westmount. We just had some students that returned from a trip to Nepal as well. So we're trying to really get the message out to the students that there are those opportunities there, and we should really, you know, it's really profitable to have a well-rounded experience. It's not all about the library or the tests. It's also about, you know, traveling and getting these experiences. So, you know, I think that as the students see the others coming back, they realize that was a lot of fun for them, and they're less hesitant to sign up and, you know, try to. Some of them had never been away from family for an extended time. It was their first time, and
because you did have different age groups in the students.
Yeah, it covered a range of 3 or 4 grades, which was good, actually. It was a good mix, and the same thing at the other end.
So I forgot to ask you how they were picked, because 20 students, that's not very many. They basically expressed an interest, and they had to do some fundraising and sell some cookies and, you know, do various fundraising, and they had to also, you know, leave their work for a week here in the school and devote themselves entirely to it for a week. It was literally 18 hours a day of French or English for them. Yes.
So total exposure. So
quite an adventure.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Mark, for being with us today and talking about this really great cultural exchange. And for all of you, please stay with us, because we will continue en français.